Hi, and welcome to the Divinely Inspired Woman podcast. I am your host, Patricia Wald Hopkins. I am a modern mystic, and I am here to share with you the beautiful wisdom and stories from women that desire to lead their lives inspired by the divine within them. The divinely inspired woman is devoted to walking the path of her soul's calling, tuning into the divinity within to navigate life with ease and grace through all circumstances. She cultivates beauty in her daily life. She is here to share the most authentic self each day through thick and thin. So I hope you will enjoy our show today and that you will leave with an infusion of inspiration for your soul and for your day and living your life. Hello, welcome to another episode of The Divinely Inspired Woman. I am your host, Patricia Wald Hopkins, and I have a lovely guest with me today, Anna Frolik. And I'm just going to tell you a little bit about her. She is an intuitive guide, an inspirational author, and the founder of Wonderland Publishing. She has tons of creative projects that I know. I've worked with her before, and she has publishing services, of course. She supports spiritual business owners, healers, and creatives on their journey of making their dream of their own oracle card decks. Yes, I have had the opportunity to work with you doing that, Anna. Or Anna, I'm sorry. And my daughter's name is Anna, so I kind of tend to say that. And so she lives in the most beautiful place. She's always sharing beautiful pictures on her social media from Vancouver Island, British Columbia. And she loves to explore the outdoors, and she captures pictures of magical waterfalls and mossy forests in all her photography. And, you know, the play out there with the elves and the fairy magic and other members of the elemental realms. And so welcome. Thank you so much for being willing to come on my podcast today and talk about how you live as a divinely inspired woman. You're welcome.
Thank you so much for having me. I'm so excited to be here.
Yeah, it is, you're just such a magical person. I mean, I can't imagine that your life isn't divinely inspired, but tell us a little bit about yourself and how you do tune into that magic, those magical realms on a daily basis to, you know, just keep your life filled with inspiration.
Oh, wow. I love that question. And honestly, I think this is a question I've never answered before in this way. So I love it.
Perfect.
And I guess, yeah, there are definitely a lot of layers to this, and it's been a long journey, a long story. But I would say I've always had a strong connection to the other realms ever since I can remember, even as a child. I remember always, really loving fairy tales, and I grew up in a family of people who believed in angels, so that already opened up a door for me. And that was just the thing that I almost loved most about my life, being able to connect with beings from the other realms, especially angels back then, but also definitely the elemental realms. I always loved being outdoors too. And that connection never really went away completely, even though there were times when I shut it down a little bit more. But there was always this part of me that wanted to reopen and reconnect with those worlds. And I remember there was a time when I was really doubting, my ability to connect with those realms because I was so much in my head, and I was back in university. But then I just started, well, first of all, taking classes with people who did this kind of work, and then it just became a really intuitive thing. And I mean, my life has just totally changed so much since I started doing this work more professionally, that was about 12 years ago.
Oh,
Time just
wow.
flies. So I
Wow.
had started my own business in the creative world at first. I started a copywriting business. That was
Okay.
what I did in corporate. And then, um, well, I just hit a wall where I felt like there was so much resistance to continuing to move forward on this same journey. And I just felt like I needed a not necessarily fresh start, but just a deeper sense of purpose. And then the connection with the angelic realms, like, just really came back, and I just got the guidance to do this more professionally. And so
Mm,
to answer your questions, your question about how I connect with these realms on a daily basis, I definitely say it has changed a lot over the years, but now, I mean, it can be very simple, just practicing being present with everything that I do, and my work, and my relationships, and definitely getting out into nature. That's probably
mhm,
my number one
mhm,
thing, but
mhm.
also through my creativity, and it's just a natural part of my life. I don't even feel like I necessarily need to make a, big effort to stay connected, other than just making sure I create the space, and I'm, not in my head too much, or not overworking
Yeah,
myself.
yeah, right,
Um,
right.
yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, so it's just for you, some people have to
Mm.
kind of cultivate it, but it sounds like you've always had this an open channel to other, other realms, and that's, yeah, that's a special, superpower because there's so many distractions for all of us, and so to have that direct connection is wonderful. Like, how do you see it show up in your life? I know you said through your creativity, like, is that where you develop, you share what you, I would say, and maybe you don't do this, but what I imagined is that, like, you're connected to these realms and then they sort of inspire you in what you create, and you kind of see their manifestations in what you create, or is there a different way that you work?
I would say there are different ways in which I work. I mean, sometimes I just have a very clear intention of, I mean, really showing these realms in my art and my photography, even, and writing and whatever I do, and other projects, especially when I work. Maybe I create an oracle deck for a client. It might not be as obvious, but there's always, some kind of connection. Um, and it's just the way I live my life in general too. I feel like there's just so much magic happening in my life. I'm, constantly calling that into, but there's always so much synchronicity, and that's something I've really cultivated in the past 12 years or so, really remaining open to that magic, and the flow, and getting away from always needing to work so hard to make things happen. And
Oh, yeah.
I
Okay.
mean,
Mm-hmm.
that's just something that's been a really important part of my journey. And so that's also a big part of that magic, like really living the magic, not just showing it creatively, or um
Okay. Yeah.
yeah,
Beautiful.
that makes sense.
So yeah, no, I love that connection that
Mm.
you shared with us. It's like the magic actually allows you not to have to work so hard trying to make it happen. Because I think a lot of us get stuck trying to make the magic happen instead of being open to allowing it to happen. Is that true? Does that resonate with what
Mm,
you're saying, or am I just that's just how I'm
absolutely.
taking it? Yeah.
Absolutely. I mean, that's such a long story too, but just this whole journey out of the corporate world. And, you know, I think most of us can relate to this. I mean, we
Mm-hmm.
were raised to believe that we need to work hard to achieve certain things, success, or whatever it is that we're expected to create in this life. And I remember, I mean, when I first started getting out of the corporate world and I started my first business, I mean, it was still so much just the doing and just following those old patterns and creating my reality more based on the beliefs that, I mean, we all have to some degree. And I think I just got to a point where pretty quickly where I just realized that something was missing. I had started my own business because I wanted to be free in some way to create my own life in a different way, right? I wanted to create the life that I really wanted to live. And even though I was working towards that and creating that externally, I felt that something inside of me was just still not fulfilled. And so it's really been a journey of, I guess, balancing those exaggerated masculine energies with more feminine energy, like really coming more into my feminine. That's definitely been a big part of my journey. And that's also a big part of the magic, opening up to receiving. I mean, that's been...
the feminine can receive. If you're always in the masculine mode, you're just doing, not opening to receive the magic. Definitely feel that.
And also, I guess even the way I run my business nowadays is so different from what I even just did a few years ago. I feel like,
what is the magic in the way you run your business? What would you like to share? Like, what is the most special part of that for you?
Yeah, I mean, that's been definitely a long journey too, ever since I got started. But I feel in the past few years, I've really gotten to a point where, I can really trust that I'm fully supported, and I don't really, like, if I don't want to do anything, like, let's say, if I feel at times that I just need to be in hermit mode and I don't want to, be super visible or doing things on social media, I still get all the projects and everything that I need to stay fully supported. Or I feel like I don't even need to worry about where my next client is going to come from.
Oh, I love that.
And I mean, there have definitely been other times when that was like my main focus all the time. Like, what do I need to do to, to support myself, to make a living? And now it can be as simple as just setting an intention. Okay, I want to call in a client for this kind of project. And then I just totally step back and I get into receiving mode, and I just allow it to happen in whatever way it's meant to. Or sometimes just being open to the surprises too. I mean, sometimes I don't even know exactly, what I want to manifest in a more physical sense. But so that's definitely been a big part of the journey, and it always continues to. But that's
the spontaneity,
it's been a game changer.
Well, I love what you said about the honoring your what you need, right? Like, if you need to go internal and be off social media and just like allowing that to be okay, right? Not having to push through, and to know that you're supported, even more so because you are allowing yourself to go into that yin kind of feminine energy. So I love that. So I've heard honoring yourself, your energy needs, right? And then being open to the surprises that come when you step into that feminine receptive mode. Okay. Yeah. So I'm just repeating these for our audience so that they can learn from you, because you're just so magical. I don't know. I think you are an embodied fairy.
Oh yeah, that for sure.
I totally believe that's why you don't need a connection. You just are.
I mean, most of us have, we've lived in other realms, and
right.
It's not really an unusual thing. Maybe I'm just more aware of it than many people are, but
you have a special connection for sure. And where you live, I'm sure, do you feel like that really helps a lot, because you are out in so much nature around you versus being in a city.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Absolutely. I mean,
Mhm.
that helps so much for sure.
Yeah. Yeah. And so tell us a little bit about what, the kind of projects that you're working on that you want to share about. Like I mean, I know you helped me put an oracle card deck together, and I just want to say that that was such a wonderful experience for me. You're just very, you're so talented and easy to, work with because you're open. But is that always the case for you? I mean, is that kind of how you call things in, is just letting them kind of take shape and alchemy of energies? Or so what are you working on right now, I guess, is my general question.
A lot of things as always. But I mean, yeah, definitely publishing Oracle decks still a thing. My work has evolved quite a bit since we worked together. So back then I was basically just doing all the things. I was doing the design and editing and everything else. And I've definitely shifted more into the publishing aspect. And
Okay.
like now this year I completed the last project that I officially did the artwork for myself, and since then I've just been collaborating with other creatives, and
Mm-hmm.
because I've learned so much in the past several years that there's also definitely a higher level of service that I can provide with my offerings. And I've definitely seen a lot, like definitely in the business realm too. I'm just more passionate about offering more support in that realm too, and the publishing. So this year I've taken on board projects. I mean, just working with other creatives. So basically, it's team collaborations where I do more of the editing still myself at this point. But I mean, I
Mm-hmm.
definitely see it heading in the direction where I'm just managing the projects and taking care of the business side of things more. And um, yeah, so that's kind of the short version of what I've been working on, but it's just been really magical. I've been so happy to see what becomes possible when we, make that shift and just also allow to receive more support. I think that's been a big part of the journey this year, and not needing to do everything on my own. And the quality of the work, I mean, just improves as well, because I just get to work with the artist or the designer who's just perfect for this particular project, who can deliver this kind of style. And it just frees up a lot of space for me to be more in my own zone of genius. So that's been part of the journey this year. But also, it's been definitely more of a personal journey of reinventing myself and setting myself free to also work more on my own projects, my own passions, because that kind of definitely was a bit on the back burner for the past
Mm-hmm.
several years when I was just so focused on building this business, and
Yeah.
initially coming out of a crisis situation that kind of opened the door to this new beginning about 3.5 years ago. But lately, I've just been really, following my inspiration to create new things. Like one thing was starting a new YouTube channel to share my adventures with the world. And also, just a couple weeks ago, I very randomly got into AI art, which I'd already just, had a look at before, maybe last year or so. I started working on some pieces, but just recently, I mean, it was on my mind. I had seen other people creating really beautiful AI art, and I was just
Mm-hmm.
wondering what are they doing? Like, how are they doing this? And like, what platforms are they using? And then I found a platform that just allows me to, in a way, do what I do with my photography when I take pictures of waterfalls and mossy forests and all those magical worlds here in the physical.
Mm-hmm.
But
Mm-hmm.
it allows me to add the dimension of the magical and actually make that visible. So I've been creating those kinds of magical landscapes. And I mean, it just keeps becoming more and more magical. So I definitely see something opening up there. I'm definitely wanting to offer some prints and working on a calendar right now for the next year, and could even become an oracle deck too. I mean, so many
It
possibilities.
feels like you have some stories that would come with those, like some stories that would come with those images too. So yeah, definitely beautiful. And tell us a little bit about how adventure plays into your life as a divinely inspired woman.
Oh, that's a good question. I mean, I've always been an adventurous spirit, I would say. I've always loved traveling and especially being outside in nature. I just remember when I first came to Canada as a child more than 30 years ago. Those are my favorite memories, traveling in a motorhome with my family and being out in the woods. And ever since then, I've always loved that. But I would say I'm just naturally an explorer, so I always want to explore new things, and I need that to stay inspired and to really feel passionate about what I'm doing. I'm not the kind of person who can keep doing the same things over and over and over again for years and years. And so I think it's just been really important for me to learn to embrace that, and not feel like, if I lose the passion for something, then, sometimes I would feel in the past that I failed, or, that I just have a really hard time committing to things. But I feel like I've really found my flow a lot more, where I can, I guess, keep building on the foundation that I've already created, but still be open to exploring new things. And sometimes that can be part of my work, as I just shared with the AI art. That's a good example. But also going on my nature adventures, I think that's just really important for me to keep the balance, and just getting away from everything, from social media, from the internet, sometimes just being offline for at least a few days. And it's just so beautiful too. And I feel right now something I really need to keep the balance and just not be working all the time, which I can do because I love my work.
Right. Yeah. I understand that. Yeah. Yeah. So balance, and so it's important to create time and space for your time away, and particularly in nature, it sounds like. So it's not necessarily traveling away to faraway places, or do you also do that? Do you find inspiration in that as well?
It's not something that's calling me as much right now. It is something that I did in the past and that I loved in the past. I mean, when I first started embracing this lifestyle back then, I was actually living in Switzerland, which is where I'm from originally. But I had been here in Canada before. And the initial intention was to, just basically get rid of everything. I got rid of all my belongings and downsized my life to a suitcase and carry-on bag. And back then I was actually really comfortable being in cities and just, being a free spirit and traveling those kinds of places. But I'd say, well, after I came back to Canada, initially I lived in Vancouver for a while too, maybe for the first year or so. And then I bought my car, and I just felt more called to venture out into, nature and just other places that I couldn't really explore without a vehicle. And then I ended up living in nature. And ever since then, I haven't really been able to live in the city anymore. It's just been like my family lives in the city, my mom and my brother, and sometimes I go to Vancouver to visit, but even just being there for a week can be really challenging. So I always take my mom for adventures too when I'm there. Like, we just drive, because we don't have to drive that far from Vancouver to get to really beautiful places.
I'm sure. I've always wanted to visit. I have not been yet, but
But
It's on my list.
yeah, I would say like the only other country that's calling me right now is definitely the US. I just haven't traveled outside of Canada in a really long time. But it's also been part of my journey this year, setting myself free to do that. And so pretty much have everything I need now. And yeah, that's a whole other story. But just
Well,
some
yeah, go
Right.
ahead. I had a question for you, but I want to hear what you have to say.
Yeah, so that's just been part of my immigration journey. It's not necessarily something I want to talk about in too much detail on social media, but just fixing some old paperwork and stuff that needed to be fixed. So that's pretty
So the
much out of
magic
the
can
way
flow.
now. Yeah.
Right? There's always paperwork.
Mm.
That's just part of the 3D. Yeah.
Mm.
So I know that you have a book, right? Isn't it about creating like that life that you're talking about? Like do you have a book?
Yes, at first I wasn't even sure what you were talking about, but yes, I have a workbook and journal
A
called
workbook and
Manifest Your
journal.
Dream Life.
Yeah. So when you're
And
talking about that, I'm like, oh my
mm,
gosh, it just feels like you're living the example of that.
mm, I mean, it's totally inspired by my journey. This is kind of the process that came out of this journey. I mean, when I left Europe, um, I don't even know, was it like 10 years ago? It's just been such a
It
long
was a
journey.
lifetime
But
ago.
when I really started setting myself free to create the life that I wanted to live, I mean, I did it very intuitively. I had no system or method or anything that I was working with other than the law of attraction. I had read the book, The Secret. So that was kind of my introduction to manifesting my reality. But I've just been observing, the patterns and the things that I did to set myself free and things that I've actually done over and over again in my life and kind of perfecting that too, because I've also seen what doesn't work, right?
Right. Yes.
And kind of extracted the things that I feel are the most important on this journey. And so there I think 6 or 7 chapters in the book now, like 6 chapters, and then there's the journaling part after that.
Yeah,
And
lovely.
So I could even go as far as to say that even if you just focus on one of these chapters, if you take the wisdom from just one of these chapters and focus only on that and you implement only that, you're going to get to the same goal. But it's just a way of, I would say, maybe shortcutting the process in some ways, but also just making it more magical. So that's basically, that's how I live my magic. So that's kind of where you get to experience implementing it for yourself. And
Yeah.
so the intention was just to like turn it into a really easy to access and implement practice. So it's kind of a
Practical
children's book
magic.
in a way for adults. So it's so easy and simple that a child could very easily understand this. And I mean, I could go on, but I think what I see with manifesting, I mean, there's so many teachings about manifesting out
Yeah.
there, and I mean, the law of attraction and Abraham Hicks, and I love those teachings, and they've, I mean, been so helpful for me on my journey. But what I often see is that people really struggle to implement, like, how do I actually put this into action in a way
Right.
that works? And so that book is kind of that missing piece in a way.
Yeah.
So you
Yeah.
get the practices and it's pretty much foolproof. So if you really take it seriously and not too seriously, because it also needs to be fun. But if you actually really
Exactly.
do it
Yeah.
and you're consistent with it, it's going to change your life inevitably.
Beautiful. Beautiful. Yeah, I like what you said. It needs to be fun, right? Because that's where the energy that manifestation energy has to come from that place, that magical, playful place. Well, yeah, I remember seeing that workbook, and was like, oh, I probably need to get my hands on that and check it out. Because you're just a living example, right, of the power of magical manifestation.
No, I love that. It's actually on sale right now,
Oh,
and probably
beautiful.
still will be by the time the podcast is live. So you can
Okay,
find it on my website.
great. And I will have your all your information for people to be able to find you in the description for this podcast. But why don't you just tell us, the audience, how they can reach out to you, or find, your books and cards and all of that.
Okay. So yeah, I think that's actually important to mention because I have two separate websites. I have one just for my publishing business, that's wonderlandpublishing.net.
Okay.
That's where I have everything Oracle card deck related and just everything publishing related. And then my own products and just other aspects of my work are on my other website. That would be annafrolik.com. And that's where you can find the workbook.
The workbook.
And yeah.
Yeah, the workbook.
And other than that, it's always, easy to reach out to me. I think on Instagram is always a good place. I spent quite a lot of time there. Just if I'm not following you, then I might not see the message right away. That's the only thing. So contacting me through my websites might be a little bit faster.
Okay.
And if we're friends on Facebook, then Facebook Messenger is always a good way to contact me too.
Beautiful. Yeah. And don't you also have a course too, I think, for making Oracle cards? I think I have
yes.
that course. Yeah, you do still have that one, because that's pretty good for people.
Yeah, I still have it, and I'm still, working on updating it. And I'm actually, this coming weekend, I want to add some more things to it because it's always work in progress because I keep learning so many new things.
Right.
So,
Yeah. You are the epitome of the creatrix here sitting with me. I love it. I love it. I love it. So we're coming to the end of our time together today. Is there any, little pearl of wisdom you'd like to share with our audience, especially people who perhaps are, new to this path? Like, what would you say to them to just inspire them to embrace it?
oh my God, that's a tough question. The first thought I had is I might just want to pull a card.
Yes, would you? Oh, and I have that
I
deck
can do
too.
that.
Yes, let's pull a card. I love
I
that.
did actually pull two cards before we started talking. I pulled one
Okay.
from your deck and one from
Oh,
mine, but I
yay.
might just pull another one just live because sometimes there's more that comes through. So I
Right.
pulled the Crown Chakra Healing card from your deck.
Oh, yes. Oh boy. Yep. Letting the divine open us.
Divine Inspiration.
Yes.
So if you have no idea where to start, just ask for it, ask for the connection, ask for the door to open. That's actually what I did when I first set the intention to communicate with the angelic realms. So I just need to take a sip of water here. For the longest time, I remember I really wanted to be able to communicate with angels, and I believed that I didn't know how to do that. So I asked for the connection, and then it just, it was sent to me whatever I needed, the right people to guide me, and then everything else I needed as well. So I think that card would be very aligned with that. Just ask for what you need and want, and open to the magic. That's all you really need in the end. You can just ask and receive. Manifestation can be that simple.
Beautiful.
And then I'll just pull a card from my deck.
Yes.
And it's a lot of cards.
And what's the name of
These are
this? I know what it is, but tell our audience what the name of the deck is.
The magical heart healing cards.
Magical heart healing.
That's the very first deck that I created. That's a long time ago. It's about 10 years ago too. It's 142 cards.
They're beautiful. Mm-hmm.
And same thing here. I mean, everything that you learn from this deck will also help you bring that magic into your life.
Mm-hmm.
And manifest with more ease.
Yeah, manifest with more ease. I love that.
And these will really speak to your inner child.
Oh, that playful child that needs support.
That's where all the magic is.
It is. It's in the child.
We all have it inside of us. I mean, we all had it inside of us when we were born, and then it was trained out of us as we grew up.
Yeah.
Okay, so what do our listeners, our viewers need to know most right now? So
this is so fun.
Outside the box.
Oh, perfect.
This is number 4. I chose the numbers for these cards very intentionally. So the 4 is all about, I mean, it's kind of the box. It's the stability, the grounding. But sometimes we need to break free from those boxes and just allow ourselves to expand. So this card is about self-liberation and expansion. This card is encouraging you to break free and expand beyond any limiting beliefs you may have about yourself and the world. Do not keep yourself locked in a box that is too small for you. You may be afraid, but trust that you will feel much more comfortable in your skin once you dare to embrace your greatness. You have much to share. Value the beauty of your gifts. You are a blessing to the world. And the magic prayer at the bottom, which is kind of like an affirmation, is I am free to be my true self.
So beautiful. I love that. So you're free to be your true self, and you're free to bring your child out to play.
Absolutely.
Right?
You're always free.
You're
so the lack of freedom is it's just a mental thing.
Construct. Yeah, beautiful. Thank you so much for sharing your magical beauty here with us and wisdom. And I'd love to have you come back again sometime and talk to us a little bit more about this magical journey that you are on. So thank you for listening.
Oh, thank you so much. Thank you so much for having me, and I would definitely love to come back.
Yay, come back and play again. All right. Well, thank you everyone for tuning into another episode of The Divinely Inspired Woman, and we'll be back again soon. Have a beautiful rest of your day. Thank you for listening to this episode of The Divinely Inspired Woman. Again, I am your host, Patricia Wald Hopkins, and I am so glad that you joined us here today. I hope you left with some soul food to inspire your daily life. And if you would like to learn more about my work, please check out my website, patriciawaldhopkins.com, and you can find out more about my divinely inspired practice and tools. So, thank you again. Have a beautiful day. Hi, I'm dropping in here with an announcement about a program, a new mentorship that I am offering. It's called Voices of Gaia, and it's about bringing your voice, your leadership, your life in alignment with Gaia's guidance. So if you feel called to learn more about this program, it's a beautiful, rich program where we dive into your essence. And if you so desire, we develop your business around it and really blossom into your whole lifestyle, this wisdom from Gaia that wants to be spoken through you. So if you feel called, reach out to me at patricia@patriciawaldhopkins.com. That's patricia@patriciawaldhopkins.com. There's no hyphen between Wald and Hopkins. And I would just love to hear from you and see if this is a good fit. So thank you for tuning in. Have a beautiful day.